is now being recorded, so I'll now take the sederant for this meeting of the Clydesdale Area Committee held on 25th of January 2023. So I have apologies from Councillor Alec Allison. We have present Councillor Ralph Barker, Poppy Corbett, Ross Gowland. I have apologies from Lindsay Hamilton. We have present Mark Horsham, Ross Lambie, Richard Lockhart, Eileen Logan, Julia Marsh, Ian McCallan. I have apologies from Catherine McClymont, and David Shearer is also present. We also have a number of officers in attendance today. I'll now hand back to yourself, Chair.
Thanks, Carl. Can I ask, are there any declarations of interest? We know about Councillor Mars, but are there any others?
Hello. Ian McCallum here.
Hi, Councillor McCallan. Yeah, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, I've got a
thanks.
declaration of interest. Item 5, one of the applicants, Bill Mills, is applying for a grant. He was my election agent, as was the election agent for most of the Clydesdale councillors, SNP councillors.
Thank you very much, Councillor McCallan.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Horsham.
Hello there. Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you,
Yeah. Just exactly the same reasons as Councillor McCallan has given. He was my election agent as well, so through that association, I'd like to declare an interest in item 5, 2(1)(a).
Okay, thank you, Councillor Horsham.
Hello, Chair.
Councillor Shearer,
Yep, same reason, same item. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, so next item is the minutes of previous meeting. If I could just propose those minutes and if they could be seconded. Yep. Thanks, Eileen. Thanks, Councillor. Okay, so next item is the Education Scotland report, Milton Primary School. Jacqueline Wallace and Lorna James, the head teacher, will speak to this report.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Chair and Councillors. As we said, my name is Jacqueline Wallace, Quality Improvement Manager and Curriculum and Quality Improvement Link for Clydesdale and Milton Primary School. And I'm pleased to be here today with the head teacher, Mrs Lorna James, to advise members on the outcome of the school's positive HMI inspection. Education Scotland undertook a 2-day short model inspection of the quality of educational provision within Milton Primary School week beginning 26th of September 2022, with the report published on 6th of December 2022. The short model of inspection focuses on only 2 quality indicators from How Good Is Our School. These are Quality Indicators 2.3, Learning, Teaching and Assessment, and Quality Indicator 3.2, Raising Attainment and Achievement, for which the school received Learning, Teaching and Assessment at a grade of good and Raising Attainment and Achievement and Evaluation grade of good also. And these grades were reflective of the school's own existing self-evaluation. Milton Primary School is located in a semi-rural area of South Lanarkshire Council within the village of Lesmahago in Clydesdale. The local area is a mixture of social and privately owned housing and outlying farmland. At the time of the inspection, the school had 169 children organised into 7 classes. Most children live in areas designated as Scottish Index of Multiple Deprivation, deciles 6 to 8, and a quarter live in SIMD, deciles 1 to 4. And the head teacher has been in post since November 2015 and is ably supported by 2 principal teachers. Education Scotland recognise the strong ethos of the school and the school's commitment to the heart of Milton values. This is validated in the parent responses, with over 90% of parents agreeing that their child likes being at school and is treated fairly and with respect. Equally, over 90% of the children responded that they felt staff treated them fairly and with respect. Education Scotland also recognised that the children are caring, considerate and help their peers readily. Staff know the children and families very well, and parents commented that positive relationships were enhanced further by the support all school staff gave during the period of COVID-19. Education Scotland were impressed by the school's approaches to integrate digital technologies into learning and teaching experiences, and the school has recently been awarded the Digital Schools Award Scotland in recognition of their effective approaches teachers take to integrating digital technologies in lessons. The head teacher highlighted the hard work and commitment of all staff to improving their digital skills during the pandemic, and commendably all staff continue to build on these skills to enhance the quality of learning and teaching, and the head teacher supports them well to do this. The overall quality of children's attainment is good, and children make good progress through early, first and second curriculum for excellence levels in literacy and in numeracy, with a few children being capable of working beyond their expected levels of attainment. The head teacher and teachers use data to identify children on track to attain as expected at all stages, and their use of data is helping to address the poverty-related attainment gap in literacy and numeracy. And most children achieved expected levels in literacy and English and numeracy and mathematics in June 2022. The poverty-related attainment gap is closing as children progress through the school, and the head teacher uses pupil equity funding effectively to provide additional staffing to support targeted interventions for individual learners. Class teachers identify children who benefit from this support in areas such as reading, writing and numeracy, and children's learning outcomes are improving as a result. The head teacher has prioritised support for younger children to help them recover fully from the impact of the pandemic. To develop the school's work further, it has been identified that teachers should ensure children have consistently high-quality learning experiences across the school, and these experiences should provide an appropriate level of challenge for all children. And teachers should also plan more effectively to assess how well children apply their learning in new situations. The two areas for development noted by Education Scotland team had already been identified by the head teacher and the school as part of their own self-evaluation. And the school are already working on the identified areas for continued development, and these are central to the school's improvement plan. The head teacher has clear plans in place to support high-quality learning and teaching to continue to raise attainment for all learners. And the School Quality Link Officer will continue to work with the school to support their plans for improvement. Education Scotland have intimated that they are confident the school will be able to take forward the areas for improvement and will make no further visits in connection with this report. The committee is therefore asked to approve the following recommendation to note the Education Scotland report on Milton Primary School. Thank you, and we welcome any comments or further questions.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
We can hear you, Councillor Horsham.
Yeah, I would just like to congratulate Lorna and our staff and all the pupils and parents within Milton Primary. It is a good report, and certainly, you know, we can see how active they are. Lorna and her staff, not just with the pupils and the parents. There's a good, you know, yourself, Ross. That's a good parent council that we go along to, a very, very engaged parent council as well. But they're also the engagement they have with the local community and the events. So well done to you, and it was a good report.
Thank you. I'd also like to say, as a councillor for Clydesdale South, I'd just like to say congratulations for a positive report. I do think that at Milton you do work hard to create a positive learning environment, and Milton manners is always very important. And I think that the heart of Milton values as well are also something that you take a lot of pride in as well. So I'd like to say congratulations for that. If there's any other councillors like to come in, I think we'll have Councillor Logan.
Thanks. Thank you, Chair. I know it can be, it will be probably very daunting when you get inspected, but a good accreditation is a great thing at the end of all the process. So I live in Carluke, it's really not in my area, but well done. But what I wanted to ask in a general, sort of, just a general question, is that what is the sort of timescale for inspections for schools? Because I don't know, I was just speaking to somebody that they'd said that their school hadn't been inspected for such a long time, and then all of a sudden, you know, this had came up, and I was just wondering what the sort of timescale was now. If I remember right, it used to be maybe sort of every unless you were really needing help or anything like that. But was it sort of like a 4-year cycle or something? But I don't know what it is now, and I just wondered. Thank you.
Happy to answer that. You're right, and it used to be in a shorter period of time, and absolutely, you know, with circumstances, the pandemic clearly hasn't helped, but we are in a period now where it is much longer between inspections. We do at the moment have schools who are 10 years plus in terms of their inspection, which is, I think, what you said, absolutely. And, you know, we hope that and anticipate that rate will actually, you know, will accelerate now, because we are aware that Education Scotland are trying to, you know, have acknowledged that and are trying to address that concern, because I think it is important that schools have that regular, you know, external self-evaluation as well, which is important. So unfortunately, we don't control the timeline round about that, as you may know. But we would certainly support. You know, we do support all of our schools with their ongoing self-evaluation journey, so that whenever an inspection comes or visitors comes, the school are ready. But yes, I think we would all agree that potentially it would be more beneficial for it to be a more regular part of their process. Would be helpful. Thank you.
Yep, Councillor Lambert.
Hi there, everyone. Yes, just to echo my colleagues' comments, well done to Milton. Fantastic job. It really is a great little school. Just thinking ahead, they've got a really good report, and I think the school's population is going to increase in the near future. There's quite a lot of house building on the cards, and I just wondered what the resource can do to, you know, pre-plan for things like that. How can they help Milton keep that standard up moving forward? Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. I think, as you know, in terms of the local authority, you know, we do have our own staffing exercises every year, and that would be key to any, you know, building capacity within any school, to ensure that consistency. So I suppose, you know, we are looking at forward planning across the estate. So I suppose it is just, you know, keeping that as a focus and making sure that we keep an eye on that. And Lorna, as head teacher, obviously keeps us up to date in any increasing role, any increasing need that comes within the school, that and as best we can we react to that. But yeah, that longer term planning is something that's important across all the estates, and certainly with our schools now where we have had to make changes, you know, sometimes that does happen where capacity is unexpected, and that would have to be addressed at the time. But at the moment the school does have still capacity to be able to, I couldn't tell you off the top of the head, Lorna, I mean, know our full capacity and can tell you that, but I know there's still plenty of room for growth within Milton, and I'm sure that will, you know, that we would be able to cope with any increased capacity over the next couple of years at least. Thank you.
Okay. No, I just wanted to say that I believe in South Lanarkshire Council we're very, very lucky with all our staff, but in particular today, because we're talking about education, we're very lucky with our educational officers who are here and all the teachers who are out in the field, because I think it'll be David Shearer now that will be here the longest, but it's rare, if ever, you get a bad report coming up. And if something untoward, maybe a school who needs to be a bit work here or there, and sometimes it can be challenging because of, you know, circumstances in the community, never mind, you know, it's not really just a school. But we've always had a good reputation, and I think what you were saying was right. We're here and we can react to, and I assume and I know that if any head teacher required, just pick the phone up and away we go. So again, this is just excellent that we've got this today, but it's a big team and a big team effort, and I think we're very lucky. And I hope you'll take that back to your staff as well, that we really appreciate everything that they do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Logan. I think Milton benefits from having quite a strong relationship with Lesmahago High as well. Children can progress over at the school. It's not too daunting. They know where the school is, and you don't have to travel far outside of Lesmahago either. But if Lorna would like to add anything, I know just press your wee button if you want to add anything. You don't have to. I'm just if you want to add anything about the report or anything like that.
Just thank you for the positive comments, and I would agree with yourself that we had tremendous support from Jacqueline, from headquarters, and we felt that at any point we could lift the phone where we needed support, and we do feel that within the community and having the high school across the road is an excellent resource that we make good use of. We're delighted with our report and looking forward to continued improvement.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no more questions from councillors, we could pass the report. Yep. Okay. Yeah, okay, and you're welcome to leave now. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so the next item is education resources, participatory budgeting, pupil equity funding, and Laura Mitchell will speak to this report.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. Delighted to be here this afternoon to give you the latest report on participatory budgeting within the Clydesdale area, and we're asking you to note this report today. At the last Clydesdale Area Committee, we reported some figures. There have been some updates since then that we've gathered through new information that we've gathered from schools. So the latest figures show that schools within the Clydesdale area have collectively allocated £100,000, £406.85, which equates to approximately 7% of their £1.4 million PEF allocation for PB. And Appendix 1 shows the breakdown of this for each of the learning communities, which can be found on page 16. Appendix 2 summarises the percentage of PEF allocation that schools have allocated for participatory budgeting. 68% of schools within the Clydesdale area have allocated the minimum 5% ask, whilst 32% of schools have allocated more than this, which is quite significant and a really good news story for Clydesdale. The participatory budgeting stakeholder groups in each school have now undertaken the PB process and completed that in terms of the consultation and the vote. And Appendix 3 on pages 18 to 21 shows an outline per learning community, which takes you through school by school. It gives you the school name, the percentage that they've put towards their PEF allocation, what that equates to in terms of money, and what the outcome of the vote was from the participatory budgeting. Appendix 4 on page 22 then shows you the distribution of the spend across the Clydesdale area. And finally, in Appendix 5, you can see the distribution of the votes, with 87% of pupils getting the majority of our votes, which equates to 5,614 pupil votes, which is incredible. So next steps in terms of our schools, they are now progressing with their spend to ensure that the minimum of 5% is spent in full by the end of this financial year, at the end of March. And any schools that are coming up against any challenges with that, we're certainly supporting them with that to ensure full spend by the end of the financial year. I'm happy to take any questions or comments. Thanks.
Thank you, Laura. Are there any other councillors who would like to ask Laura about anything that she presented? We don't have anything on the request list. Okay, thanks so much. I think we're happy to move on. Move the report, yeah, and seconded by Councillor Logan. Brilliant. Okay, thank you, Laura. I think you're free to leave the meeting now if you like, or you can stay for the rest of the meeting if you like, but it's up to you. Okay. Okay, next item is the Community Grant Applications Warm Welcome Initiative. And that's pages 25 to 30 in your pack, and I'm going to invite Carol to speak.
Thank you, Chair. So this is our regular report that comes to Area Committee on the community grant applications. On this occasion, we also have grants for the Warm Welcome Initiative. So we are looking for approval of community grants to 6 community groups in the Clydesdale area. If we want to just go through them, do we want to go through them one at a time? We have the 4 councillors who declared an interest at the start of the meeting, all declaring an interest in the first application. So if we want to perhaps start with application B,
Yep.
and then we'll exclude those members and come back to A. Okay, so application B is Colburn Regeneration Group. They're looking for start-up costs, and the recommendation in the report is £300.
Okay, are we happy with that to be agreed by the committee? Yep, I believe isn't anybody in the request list, so okay with that?
Okay, application C is Crawford John Toddlers, who are looking again for start-up costs, and the recommendation is £300.
Okay, agreed.
Okay. Application D is Colburn Homing Club, looking for materials, administration and publicity costs, and the recommendation is £300.
Okay, agreed.
Okay, application E, Carnwath Primary School and Nursery, and the application is for equipment, and the recommendation is £240.
Okay, agreed.
Okay, application F is Rigside Community Nursery Committee, looking for equipment, and the recommendation is £800.
That was agreed. If anyone else has to say anything about that, feel free.
Okay, we've got Councillor Barker.
Oh, sorry, I've got it.
Sorry.
No, I just wanted to, what equipment was it? I mean, this is just for interest. It's a high recommendation. I just wondered, what sort of equipment we were looking at there.
Yep, Carl's just getting the information out.
Okay, so this is for a fundraising summer party to be held in June this year, and it's to purchase a bouncy castle, sound system, candy floss machine, and hook-a-duck. 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 Okay. Logan.
Councillor Logan?
No, that's fine. I was wondering what they were looking for. That's fine.
Okay, thank you. Is that agreed?
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so if we could now ask Councillor Mars, McCallan, Horsham and Shearer to leave the meeting. Okay, I can confirm that they have now left. Okay, so application A is from Clydesdale Community Gaelic Initiative, administration and publicity costs, and the recommendation is £800.
Yep, we'll have Richard Lockhart first.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Councillor Lockhart.
Great. I just have a sort of question. I tell you why I'm asking it is this not something that the education area should be funding? I mean, okay, it's all very well learning this incredibly well-known international language, Gaelic. I know that the First Minister is keen that we should all be picking up threads of this, but it just seems a little odd that they're applying for a grant for something that should normally be, I would have thought, be funded through the Education Department. That's all.
Is there any further information Carol has in the application? might explain.
There's not particularly. I think what I would say, Councillor, is that obviously this is a local community organisation that have applied for this, as opposed to it being done through Education Resources, and therefore they are entitled to apply for the grant in the same manner as any other organisation.
Yeah, well, okay. I just wonder whether they've applied, if they've gone down any other routes. I mean, I have no fundamental objection. It just seems that you would have thought that the Education Department would have been putting up the money for this. Anyway, that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, and Councillor Logan.
Thank you. I am assuming differently from my colleague that I think there's an Aldineri or something, an Italian group up in, I think it's based in Lanark actually. I know there's people to give you conversational German and conversational French groups. So when I was assuming that it would be anybody could go, no particularly set out to children, that if one fine day I wanted to go and learn Gaelic or Gaelic, whatever way it's said, that it would be open to that type of thing, as opposed to being a purely for educational, school purposes. But again, like my colleague, it's quite a high amount. And what exactly are they going to do with this money?
This is. Sorry if I put my microphone back on. Sorry, and you're absolutely correct, Councillor Logan. This isn't aimed at school children. It is for anyone who wishes to learn Gaelic. The money that they're looking for is for printing course books, so 6 books across 2 course levels. And actually, I think this is mainly because they have a high number of mature students that don't have the resources to download the materials.
Okay, I don't see anyone else on the request list. I think that's okay to pass that one. Okay.
Okay, so the other grants contained within this report are for noting, and these were the Warm Welcome Initiative grants. And we have a total of 10 grants awarded to community and voluntary groups and organisations within Clydesdale, totalling £11,600. As the total exceeded the budget of £10,000, with the agreement of the Deputy Chair, the additional £1,600 was to be met from the existing community grants budget. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Carol. Do I have any councillors who'd like to ask? We'll have Eileen Logan in the request list.
Sorry, I really wasn't going to be speaking too much today with my way. Is this in total everybody that asked? So I'm only talking from my own area. I know that the churches in my area joined together and they've got a day each and different stuff. So it was only Lanark and various places that asked, and nobody else asked for this money.
My understanding.
Am I not picking it up?
Yeah, we'll have an sorry, sorry, Carol. We'll have an officer here from the council who can explain the process to councillors here.
Thank you.
Okay.
Councillors, it is correct. No one from the Curlick area applied. The only ones who applied came mainly from the wider Lanark area and the rural areas. So these are everyone who has applied so far. The grant scheme is still open. And there are 2 other grants that have come in, applications that have come in that have still to be considered, but none of these are from the Curlick area.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if this is just because the Scottish Government, I think if I'm right, said it to last till March, warm initiatives, and there was no guidance as to whether it went any or it had to go again or go any further. But could I ask then, if once we get to March and if as a council or whoever it is, we look to future grants and different things, then we might need to have a discussion. This happened very quickly, and I understand that. It was a bit like COVID. We had just to get up and go. But if we're going to look at it on a year, maybe a year basis, I don't know what's going to happen, then I think we should be looking at amalgamating, like no having six groups in one town and no groups in another town. I think we'll need to have a really good look at what's out there and what we're going to do and where we're going to get the, I don't mean where we're going to get the money, how we're going to make most use of our resources. Because I was surprised when I saw it and still surprised that other areas is not applying. Thank you.
Yeah, would you like to come back in? Or?
Yes, you're correct. We only had approval to run it for this year, and it was a council initiative. If the council wants to continue it, we'd need to bring a paper back, and there would be an opportunity to consider the criteria again to look at that. But I was surprised myself when I saw that certain areas were well served and other areas hadn't applied. It has been publicised on the council website, and the communities and engagement team have also publicised it. But that's what we've got so far.
Yep, thank you. It was my understanding that it was my understanding that the funds would end in March, and we would go into the spring and the summertime, and people wouldn't need a warm bank, and we wouldn't necessarily have the provision for it. We wouldn't necessarily need it. But I think Councillor Logan has some sound queries about it in terms of the future going forward, because we were predicting that the winter would be bad for a lot of people. But I also think that if we do this again in the future, I think councillors can go back into communities and community groups and tell more people about this if we do it. It is a historic issue that areas across Clydesdale, sometimes are quite hard to organise or get funding and things. So it's something to bear in mind going forward, I think, for the council. I think we'll have Councillor Barker.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I mean, we all thought, well, correctly, that this winter was going to be particularly sudden and particularly difficult, cost-wise, and we've certainly had some strange weather, with warm weather and extremely cold weather, when a lot of the council house heating systems, which we all liked, started to fail. There's all sorts of problems, that once the heating fails and the pipes freeze, and then and then people get flooded out. So yeah, I mean, anywhere we can get people who are effectively volunteering to run warm welcome and similar caring. I mean, it's should really encourage it. It seemed to be a good initiative. I'm not one for flinging money about, but we're getting people in who we probably have to pay high salaries for otherwise. What I would say, I mean, I can see the communities that have applied here, and I'm sure there are other initiatives as well that haven't applied. At the bottom of it all, I would just hope that we can keep the council infrastructure good enough to help. We suddenly find that things like toilets in halls don't work, and we've got quite a lot of halls out of use because we can't afford the repairs. So it's a good grant system for a good thing. Whether next winter will be the same, I mean, obviously the massive increase in energy costs was what pushed this on. So I think it's been a good exercise, but we must get council infrastructure up to match that. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Barker. And we have Councillor Shearer.
Thank you, Chair. I share Councillor Logan's concerns about the lack of applications from the Carluke area. Not a lot we can do about that now, but I think what we should be doing, as she suggested, is maybe review what we did this time round, see where we can improve that so that we're in a better position come next winter should the council decide to run this programme again or need to run this programme again, that we're in a better place and better organised going forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Shearer. We'll have Councillor Lockhart next.
It's possibly not quite on the same subject, but I mean, I do agree with the previous speaker. We are heading again towards the last quarter, I think, and yet again, I think we only got about £2,500 in community grants, and we've still got £10,500 in the pot. So we are yet again, I think, heading for a surplus, which we either roll forward or give back or whatever it is, depending on the decision. Are there any plans to, if you like, get the word out a bit more in order to try and reduce the large amount that seems to be left every year at the end of these grant sessions?
Yeah, it's something we can feed back to the engagement team. I don't know if you'd like to come in. Would Geraldine like to come in?
Sorry, I seem to have got the mic.
Again. We can certainly put the message out through the communities engagement team, and obviously councillors can do that in their own ward, just to alert people to the fact that the community grant budget is there, and it's on the website, an online application form, and if they wish to apply, to do so, because there is a budget of a remaining balance of 10,000 in the budget.
Yep, thank you, Geraldine. Councillor Logan.
I want to emphasise that it's not that nothing is happening in my area, because it is. And it's actually a point of good practice, because the local churches took up the main initiative and have actively worked together so that they are not duplicating, or, there's no three things working at the same day. So every day has got something, happening or going on. It's just that obviously they're using whatever budgets, which is a shame. And that was all I was meaning, is that it is happening in different areas, but they've obviously, for whatever reason, haven't put in for any help. And I think I'm going to reiterate that if I don't know whether it's to come again or if the government's even going to help us to let it come again. But if we were looking at it again, then I think we would need to get smarter at how or who's doing what, so that, maybe get two things going on at the same time. And that was the initial point in my conversation. So, yeah, things are happening, but there's obviously people who are, I'm assuming, maybe through church budgets, anything else, I don't know what it is, but it was just an anomaly. But if we are going forward, you're right, Geraldine, a paper outlining maybe what would be available. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Mars.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think that I would applaud the work of the community through the Warm Space Initiative and again stepping up to the plate of helping our most vulnerable. I'm concerned though that the benefit of the Warm Space Initiative money was that there was a wider scope of what people could use community grant money for. And I know previously discussion has been had amongst the chairs of the area committees about the scope of the criteria, but the criteria is so tight that a lot of local groups that certainly intimate to myself that an interest, they realise that for what they would like to use money for, and often it is for rental and let costs, that they're unable to access that money. So I certainly would call for a further look of why we have quite a tight criteria for community grants, and that's probably excluding a lot of groups from making applications.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Mars. We'll have Councillor Barker.
Thank you, Chair. Of course, Councillor Mara is quite right. I can't make recommendations here, but there are two obvious things that a lot of groups that used to claim, get good grants and were grateful for it, have found it more difficult, and keeping constituted and having books properly audited, and they've just seemed to have dropped off the register. And I don't know how we do that. I don't think we should make it too easy, but perhaps we should review the amounts that we give out. And the other big problem for our community grants is, well, partly my fault in that there is money going around the wind farm areas. Now, the wind farm community funds are absolutely disgraceful. I mean, I've been to a different wind farm setting up fund this morning, and if I got a chance under any other business, I'd just give a quick report on that. But the one thing we did get, and certainly myself, former Councillor Greenshields, and to some extent Councillor Thompson, to get relatively easy wind farm money to community councils. And now it is easier, especially non-constituted groups, and we've got to make a case, don't have to be constituted. And to some extent, they are finding it easier to go there in the wind farm areas than to come to the community grant. And I can only suggest that perhaps we should put the figures up. I know it may seem a lot at times, an outing will give you 500. I'm not sure, but if we can't get the money spent, then it's going to disappear. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Barker. We'll have Councillor Horsham.
Hi there, can you hear me okay? Yeah.
We can hear, yeah.
Good, yeah. Completely agree with Councillor Barker on the microgrant scheme. It is a lot easier, it's less restrictive. If you take, for example, a community council that's administered on a microgrant scheme, or you've been to the same meetings as me, Ross, they're held every month. You know what I mean? There's a quicker turnaround in getting the money to community groups, and it's not a percentage. So if they ask for £500, they're getting the £500. They're not getting that sort of percentage. So I think that a lot of, even though it looks like there's a fall off, I think a lot of other groups are going to the wind farms and other sources of funding. So I think that is one of the reasons as well. As Councillor Barker says, it's a lot easier to go through the community councils, especially with the microgrant schemes and get the money, and it's a quicker turnaround for them as well.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Horsham. Councillor Logan.
Sorry I started this. I'm going to put my cards right on the table. I only asked a question about, it was a shame that there was areas who did not come for Warm Hub money, and that started it. And I am absolutely 100%. If we are spending public purse money, of which it is public purse money, it's not our money, and that's one of the things I don't agree with the microgrants, but I don't object to the microgrants either. People have to be constituted, people have to be able to show you their books if they're coming to council for money, and they have to say, well, I spent it on that, because years ago when you went to the lottery, you had to show a wee, you know, I spent it on X, Y and Z. And it's no for any other reason except that if we get audited, then you can show how you put out your public purse money. I don't know whether our grants should go up a wee bit. That's for another day and another discussion, because things are going up and maybe people do need a wee bit more money. There is a lot of groups that went off the radar and various different things, but I think we should agree this today, move on, and then think what we would like to do if we're going to do anything in the future, either for warm hubs or whatever, because one of the problems that's came over the years, and again, those of us who's been here a long time, is if people get used to a grant coming in, and that was always the big problem, they started to put it into their running costs each year. But at any time, if you had to say, I'm sorry, our money's been cut right back, we can't give you that, then the blame went to the council for shutting the group or whatever. So it was never seen to be that it was put into running costs, because that wasn't what the grants were there for in the first place. In fact, there's a big row, I think, Trundle, Nunnan and Glasgow at the minute, same thing, a group having to shut because they relied on money. So I would say move the paper on the warm welcome hubs, or whatever it's the right terminology is, and if we want to look at stuff in the future, then it is in the future. Probably come to a bigger committee than this, I don't know, but I never started it to go on about, you know, anything else. It was only for that reason. And as I say, I think you have to be careful, because people are paying taxes and different stuff. We're administering public purse money, and we have to be sure we're administering it correctly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Logan. I'm going to wrap up this discussion as time is moving on a little bit. But I think approve the report. Yep, okay, thank you. I did see Julia Mars jump into the request list. If we can just see Councillor Mars, and then we'll move on.
I believe the previous report, the report on World Banks, was for noting.
Yeah.
Chair, rather than approval.
Yeah, well, that's no problem. It's been agreed. Okay, thank you. So next item is urgent business. Would anyone have anything they would like to put into urgent business? There was nothing submitted, but Councillor Barker did mention something earlier. Would you like to come in?
If you just want, I mean, if people do want to listen, just 2 minutes or cut me off. I was at a proposed wind farm this morning, which is actually just outside South Lanarkshire. But they are proposing to give effectively money off electricity bills if the wind farm is approved. And for the people living quite near to it, I mean, it's over £1,000. And I think that will be annually. Now, I really don't agree with it, because giving money, it just brings on greed and resentment. So it's not something I would go for, but it just shows how some wind farms can either promise, can promise money like that, and our main community funds are so mean and restrictive and can't get things done. And it's about time we change that for the benefit of the council.
Okay. Well, thank you, Councillor Barker.
And I'm not suggesting we should give money out into people's pockets, because that's a disaster.
Well, we'll see. The debates about wind turbines will trundle on, I assume, because there's quite a lot of wind turbines in Clydesdale.
Could I comment there, Chair?
Sure. If you just tap your.
Sorry.
She's on. Yeah, you're on. I think you're on. We'll just press it again.
Just simply to add that if a wind farm is offering money to have an application approved, that's bribery. And that would be caught by the Bribery and Corruption Act. And it's certainly something that we could never entertain in South Lanarkshire.
Yep. Thank you, Geraldine. Okay. Councillor Barker like to come back?
It's an opportunity not to be missed. Yes, they wouldn't see it as bribery because they'll only give it out if they get consent. But I mean, I agree with that. But what we are doing in South Lanarkshire, and particularly the South Lanarkshire own scheme, massive amounts of money. It's so restrictive, and we could say that. Well, in fact, we do say that paying for revenue is not allowed, and that that goes too far. And what it is our infrastructure is deteriorating because we can't afford it. All the wind farm money has to go to what are effectively private groups. I mean, they are groups that people can join. I mean, just the obvious one is Bigger Rugby Club, which I support. Loads of money. But we can't keep our community halls in a fit state, and yet there's this money going about. And all I'm pointing out is that both this particular wind farm company that have done it elsewhere is giving money out to residents. And I agree with everybody, that's very dangerous, I would have thought. And obviously it's not a bribe in that they'll either get consent or not get consent according to planning guidance, if you like. And I suppose what they are doing is keeping local people off their backs, I suppose, which in a way is just as bad. But I mean, I told them today, I just don't agree with it. But how do we get money out of these big funds to improve our communities? And I tell you now, I mean, the communities I live in look worse now than when we set these funds up, when the wind farms first came, which is getting on for 10 years ago now. They look worse now than they do then. And that is really because of council funding cuts, which we can't do anything about.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Barker. I think
this funding better.
I think we'll move this on because I think a few of us have different meetings to get to. And we'll have David Shearer on the request list. Councillor Shearer.
Thank you, Chair. I have similar concerns to Councillor Barker. However, I would say I take very much on board what Geraldine has said to us. I think, Ralph, there's probably an argument to review how we administer these funds and who can apply for them and how it's done. But I would be very, very wary of going down a route that looked anything like bribery to communities or bribery to individuals in order to get planning permission. I think that route, A, is criminal, but it is also, we have to be careful not to damage the reputation of the council as being seen to be accessing funds that should be done properly, transparently and above board. So it can be a bit of a minefield, but if Ralph is proposing that we review how we administer these funds, then fine, let's have that review. Thank you, Chair. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Shearer. Okay, I think I'll just close the meeting there. Thank you for your attendance, and I'll declare the meeting closed. Okay, thank you.